Welcome to the Hollywood Raw podcast. I am Dax Holt. Adam, Glenn, and I were not able to connect today, so it is just gonna be me. Anyway, welcome to Friday. Welcome to the Raw Rundown. If this is your first time tuning in, the Raw Rundown is basically a recap of all the biggest things that happened in Hollywood this week. We're gonna run them down for you, so you don't have to read all the websites. We will do all the hard work for you. Hi guys. Thanks for joining me today. Week was good. I'm trying to think. Ooh, I got a bubble in my throat there. Week was good. I've got my daughter's bat mitzvah coming up this weekend, so it has been a crazy week trying to get ready for it. It is time. I can't believe that she is already to the point of a bat mitzvah. It's crazy. You know, when you like look at your kids and you're just like, where the hell did time go? And everyone always told you growing up, like, time flies. And you're like, no, it doesn't. No, time fucking flies. It goes by so fast. I look at my children and they're so, like, my daughter's now taller than my wife, which is crazy. They just grow up before your eyes, which is fun and sad and scary all at the same time. But anyway, so sorry, Adam's not here today, so you're just going to have to deal with me, but we're going to make the best of it. So let's just jump right into it and get going. So, all right, since we have no Adam, number 10. All right, number 10 is Jared Leto being accused of sexual misconduct by multiple women, including saying that they were actually minors at the time. So there is some serious allegations being thrown at him. There was a detailed report published in Airmail on Saturday, June 7th. These allegations describe a pattern of inappropriate behavior spanning over a decade, and some of these women claiming that the incidents occurred when they were underage. So this report includes interviews with 9 women who described troubling interactions with the actor, saying that, quote unquote, it's been an open secret for a long time, end quote. And that came from an anonymous woman telling the outlet. Among some of these disturbing allegations are claims that Leto actually asked for sexual questions to a 16-year-old girl, walked out of a room nude in front of a 17-year-old, and exposed himself and masturbated before putting an 18-year-old's hand on him. Again, these are all alleged. One woman, a model who was 16 back in 2008, recounted meeting Leto at an animal rights event before visiting his studio. Where she claims that he flirted with her and appeared nude. Another woman stated that she was 16 when Leto approached her at a Los Angeles cafe and later called her that night with sexually aggressive or suggestive conversations. Basically, the way this all started was last month, DJ Alitez reported reposted a Facebook status from 2012 on her Instagram stories accusing Leto of inappropriate behavior when she was 17. She described these actions as, quote unquote, predatory and terrifying and unacceptable. Well, here's the thing. Once she posted that, there was 50 responses from individuals who reported similar experiences, some who were reportedly as young as 14 to 16 years old at the time. So one representative for Jared Leto is denying this vehemently denying the allegations, saying that these are terribly false, that there was never any recruiting complaints or anything inappropriate. So he is maintaining his innocence. I'm assuming we will hear much more about the story in the future because these are the type of stories that really get a lot of attention, especially post Me Too time. You know what I'm saying? All right. Number 9 is a jury convicts Harvey Weinstein, a couple of those things that he was accused of in this landmark Me Too trial. So basically, he was convicted Wednesday of one of the top charges in this sex crimes retrial, but acquitted of another, and jurors were yet to really make a verdict on the third charge. But there was a split verdict metered out a measure of vindication of his accusers and prosecutors, but also to Weinstein. So let me skip down to the meat and potatoes of this. Basically, this was a majority female jury. They convicted the former studio boss of forcibly subjecting Miriam Haley, who was a producer and a production assistant to a criminal sex act back in 2006. So that was the one that they actually did find him guilty of. But jurors acquitted him of another sexual criminal act charge. It was related to Kasia, I think her name was, a former model whose allegations of forcible oral sex date to 2006, but were added to the case later this year. So that was the one that they acquitted him of. And then there are jurors who are continuing to deliberate and on a charge that he raped another woman, a hairstylist named Jessica Mann, in 2013. So that is kind of where we're at the moment, at least at the time of me taping this. They were still deliberating about that last charge, the raping of the woman, the hairstylist. So, you've got one loss, one win, and one still pending for this man. But those are all the details I got for you on that one. Sorry. All right, let's get to number 8. Number 8 is Brian Wilson. This one's sad. Brian Wilson, legendary musician, obviously from the Beach Boys, but probably one of the most talented men in Hollywood, passed away at the age of 82. He was really the creative force behind the group Surf Sound, the perfect harmonies. A lot of big musicians in the industry have always praised him, saying what an absolute genius Brian Wilson was. His family ended up posting the news that they were heartbroken. They announced that that their father had passed away, and they shared that information on Instagram. But not the only huge celeb musician and genius to pass away this week. Sly Stone, obviously the funk frontman from Family Stone, died also at the age of 82. So yeah, this was a really sad day in music. You got two just geniuses who passed away. Sly had been, I guess, battling lung disease and ended up taking his life. Anyway, so his family also put out a statement and said, while we mourn his absence, we also take solace in knowing that his extraordinary musical legacy, good God, I can't talk today, legacy will continue to resonate and inspire for generations to come. So those were the two big breaking stories of musicians' deaths. We obviously have one more death coming up that I'm assuming most of you guys knows will be on the rundown. Someone that was huge in my upbringing, and I think a lot of people that are probably listening to this podcast around the same age. All right. Moving on, number 7, more drama in the Cyrus family. Trace Cyrus blasting his dad, Billy Ray, for skipping his grandma's funeral to attend a fashion show. There's been no secret that the Cyruses have been feuding and there's been issues going on. But Trace went on to Instagram and did not hold back whatsoever. He said this about his dad. He said, "This man is so hungry for fame. It's pathetic." He said he put up a photo of his dad on there, and he said he really flew to Italy for a fashion show, but wouldn't come to LA for Mammy's funeral while he was still married to my mom. And he said even after his daughter got him a $60,000 private jet, like he demanded, he still didn't come. And I guess that the jet was still paid for, and he still didn't use it. He went on to say that you're the lamest man ever to walk the planet. Honestly embarrassed to even have ever considered you my idol. Just brutal. And then someone kind of said, well, hey, maybe this is seems like a cry for help from a son that desperately needs attention from his father. And Trace was like, oh, hell no. No, I am way past that point of even caring. Even if I ever speak to him again, I've surpassed him in every metric as a man on this planet. There's nothing left to learn from him except from his mistakes. I had hope at one point, but I'm convinced he's finally a lost cause. I'll continue to thrive as the oldest son of the family with the Cyrus last name, and will continue through me and my many children I plan to have. I will raise them in the right way and be a part of their life no matter what the circumstances are. Whew! And obviously, I know Miley's had issues with her dad and her parents. She seems, I believe, right now to be talking to both of them, as far as I know. But this is a very public shaming of his father. So we'll see if Billy even responds to this or just says this is a son hurt right now and no use in responding, or it just could make things worse. I don't know. So we shall see. Either way, I mean, everyone loves a little family drama, don't we? Everyone's got drama in their family, so hearing someone else having it is kind of entertaining at some point. All right, let's get on to number 6. This is a wild story. I was reading this the other day thinking, it sounds crazy, but it also sounds totally plausible and believable. But R. Kelly's lawyers are saying that prison officials tried to plot R. Kelly's murder, and then they were going to give the person who they were going to have murder him, they were going to kind of let him off the whole thing. So his lawyers are requesting his release after an alleged murder for hire plot in that North Carolina prison. Basically, he's serving that 30-year sentence for racketeering and sex trafficking since back in 2022. But lawyers are saying that he should be moved from federal prison to home detention after 3 bureaus of prison officials have allegedly devised a plot to have R. Kelly killed by another inmate, according to this emergency motion. So federal officers are alleged to have solicited the murder of R. Kelly because he intends to expose the corruption underlying his federal prosecutions. They filed the motion to make sure that they did fail, and that the only thing that can protect R. Kelly behind prison walls now is the fact that the world is watching, and we will call on courts and President Trump to help put an end to the corruption that threatens Mr. Kelly's life. So going on and reading a little bit deeper, Kelly's team provided a sworn statement from an inmate named Michael Stein, I believe is how you say his name, saying that officials offered to release him amid his terminal illness in exchange for Kelly's murder. Stein, who's the leader of the Aryan Brotherhood, alleged that he was previously directed to order beatings and killings by a prison official who also ordered the killing of Kelly. Stein said that he was transferred in March to the Federal Corrections Institute in North Carolina, where Kelly's being held, and placed in the same unit. So once Stein carried out the killing, he claimed that officials said he would be allowed to escape the facility, and though he'd be charged with murder, evidence would be quote-unquote mishandled, resulting in no conviction. However, according to Stein's declaration, he had a change of heart and told Kelly about the plot, and then Kelly's lawyers also claimed that in June, a second inmate with the Aryan Brotherhood also was directed to kill both Stein and Kelly. So they are saying, look, there's a lot of shit going on inside these prison walls. We are going to end up dead if we do not get more people involved. And if he was to end up dead at this point, then it would be very suspicious. And so that is what they're saying is going to keep him alive, is basically the knowledge out there that the prison officials are trying to get him killed. Pretty wild story. Again, I don't know. I don't know how true it is. This is coming from R. Kelly and his team, but it's so wild enough that it sounds like, how do you even make this story up? It sounds like it could totally be true. Anyway, I was fascinated by that one this week. I could not wait to tell you guys about it because I was so intrigued by the whole story. Anyway, so we'll see. Let me know your thoughts. Head on over to our private Facebook group, Off the Record. You can find it. Just go to HollywoodRaw.com and there's a link right there to the private Facebook group called Off the Record. Just curious to hear what everyone else has to say. Okay, let's move on to number 5. Glen Powell's ex, Gigi Paris, revealing the exact moment she knew when their relationship was done. We watched the kind of downfall of this relationship when him and Sydney Sweeney were out filming their movie all over Australia, and all the stories were coming out that they were an item, even though she was romantically linked to someone. He was in a relationship, but they were filming a rom-com together, so that was why they had like fallen in love or were cheating on their partners with each other. And then it came out much later that it was really just kind of a publicity stunt that Sydney had said, this is what people really wanted. So we were giving it to them. And it was just a marketing ploy because they were trying to get their movie publicized, and it really worked. So Gigi, she finally is now talking about it. She did an appearance on the Too Much podcast and said that she recalls that right before the breakup, she was planning on flying to Australia for a week, where obviously Powell was overseas filming Anyone But You with Sydney. And this was right when all the rumors between the co-stars were really getting big. Everyone was talking about it. And then she received a phone call from him saying, "Don't come to visit me on set." She goes, "It was pretty insane. I just got a call from him and I was about to go to Australia to work." Like, she wasn't just going there to visit. She was literally going to work because she's a model. She said, "I had to get my visa, which took me longer than I anticipated. And meanwhile, all this shit was coming out on the internet, and I had jobs lined up. I was going to go, ironically, to shoot a bridal shoot." And I guess he called and said, "The producer and I have discussed that I think it's best that you don't come to visit." Never really said why, just that's it. And then they hung up, and she was like, "This motherfucker, this is what he's done to me." And I guess that was the moment that she kind of fell out of love with him. And she was like, "Who the hell are you? Stand up for yourself." She ended up flying to Australia anyway. She obviously had to go work there. But she was not allowed to go near the sets. And then I guess they finally were allowed to like see each other for a little bit, and they had a breakup, and it was a goodbye with lots of tears. And there were a lot of things, lots of conversations that were had, and they, tried to keep it on the same terms. And that was it. They were done after that. But I think I read into this as there weren't any major issues going on until he started filming, and then it kind of broke up the relationship, is my understanding of how she's explaining it. Because she didn't say we were doing really bad. She basically said he called me up and said, "Don't come to visit me on set, even though you're going to be in Australia." And then it kind of snowballed from there. So anyway, that was her side of the story. He had said that he was going through a breakup at the time that all those stories were coming out. So he made it sound like that breakup was already in the mix. It was going that way before he even started filming the movie. But who knows? Two sides of every story, right? All right. Here is my other sad story for this week. This is number 4. Ananda Lewis, who is a former MTV VJ who battled stage 4 breast cancer for many years, died at the age of 52. So, like, when I think about MTV in its heyday with Carson Daly and just what it was like to grow up with, I don't know, like TRL and stuff, it was cool. It was fun. It was the biggest show on the planet. Like, I looked at Carson Daly and I wanted to be Carson Daly so bad. And Ananda was a part of that MTV family, and she was on TV every day. She was doing the coolest interviews and getting access to all these massive celebrities. And seeing the news of her passing was, I don't know, like really, really sad to me, because I had no idea what she was up to these days. It's not someone that I necessarily followed or knew what she did after MTV. But the second I saw all those photos of her hanging out with celebrities and NSYNC and all these people back in the day, because they're going along with the memorial type news stories, it just was like, dang, this girl was so cool and such a big part of my after school life growing up that it made me sad. But her 14-year-old son had a middle school graduation the same day that she passed away. I also did not realize that her husband, Harry Smith, is the younger brother of Will Smith. I did not realize she married into the Smith family. I was like, that's pretty cool. But she was obviously a media trailblazer. She announced that she had stage 3 breast cancer in 2020, and that by 2024 revealed that her cancer had advanced to stage 4 after deciding not to undergo a double mastectomy when she was first diagnosed. And that I remember reading that she kind of regretted at a certain point, that initially she said that she was going to work out the tumor in her own way, and then it metastasized and became cancer and started to spread. And she had said, like, I probably should have taken care of that. And that makes me sad, just because I know, like, if you catch breast cancer early enough, it is very treatable. You can have surgery, you can have the double mastectomies or mastectomy and get rid of it and live a long, healthy life. And it always makes me so sad when someone chooses not to take care of it, but to maybe see if there's another non-medical surgical way. And especially for someone who has young kids, it just makes me sad for them that potentially their mom could still be here with us today had she done something a little different, because she knew pretty early. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. I just feel bad for the family. Anyway, so she had talked a lot about her cancer journey. I know she had done a sit down interview with CNN a while back. She had talked about it and basically said, she also refused mammograms when she was younger, I guess because her mom had also dealt with breast cancer. And so she refused mammograms. She said that was a mistake. I watched my mom get mammogram for 30 years, almost at the end. And that she had breast cancer, and she goes, she just didn't do it. And then when she did, she had already had it. So, oh man, sad story. But obviously I had to keep that in the rundown. So, all right, let's move on to the number 2 story, which is about Tarek Moussa. We know him from Flip or Flop. He was cited by police after getting into an altercation in a Las Vegas hotel while defending his dad. At least that is what the story is saying. He was involved in this physical altercation. I guess the fight started after he stepped in between his dad and a man who was allegedly harassing him. This is according to People. And then he was cited by police, but not arrested. I guess one witness described the scene as quote unquote bad, and they said that the victim was seriously roughed up. All parties involved refused medical attention, but he was cited for battery as a result of the altercation, which occurred, and this happened on Thursday, June 5th at the Palazzo at the Venetian Resort. So, the Metropolitan Police Department confirmed that the officers responded to the battery incident and that 2 males were involved in a physical altercation, resulted in one being cited. So the other guy was not, even though it sounds like Tarek jumped in between this guy and his dad. It seems like he was in town doing some kind of speaking engagement, and he was there with the family. I see looks like some older people. So his dad, obviously, I don't know if that's his mom or his dad's wife, but they were there. It looks like his wife Heather was there, so they were making a family little getaway, and unfortunately, it got a little sour. So that is that story. I don't know if we're gonna hear much more about it. Honestly, he wasn't arrested, so no arrest. I don't know if it'll get much more serious than that. All right, let's go on to number 2. Everyone keeps asking me. They stop me at the gym. They stop me in the streets. They say, Dax, tell me about the Diddy trial. And I say, I don't care anymore. But I will still tell you guys about the Diddy trial because everyone is still very, very curious. So this week, Jane, who is going under a pseudonym, she was back on the stand testifying that she was violently attacked by Combs back in June 2024. She described that he kicked her, he punched, he dragged her as she confronted him about another relationship. She recounted during this cross-examination, she said, I really resented the way that he went about introducing me to this lifestyle. I was already so hooked. I fell in love with someone who I didn't understand the terms and conditions of what our relationship would be like. That is a very powerful statement, I feel, that she just didn't know what she was getting to. And I'm going to assume a lot of people that have dated him over the years didn't understand what he needed out of a relationship. And it sounds like a lot of freaky sex and not necessarily with each other. One juror, there was basically a little controversy that happened. Prosecutors had filed to have this one juror like removed. So let me pull up the details of it. Yeah, so they basically filed a motion to remove juror number 6, citing quote unquote lack of candor. So the defense attorney, Alexander Shapiro, responded requesting time to defend the juror, noting that the juror is black and asserted their right to address any race bias, any race-related bias. So we'll see how that turns out. And then there was a bunch more with Jane on the cross-examination. There was a quote-unquote crack pipe voice note. So prosecutors played this voice memo from March 2023 where Combs creepily says to Jane, "You are the crack pipe." The audio followed a Turks and Caicos trip with Combs praising her, but also mentioning that she vomited. There were explicit texts and extravagant gifts. Under this cross-examination, Jane was made to read romantic and explicit text messages to discuss expensive gifts from Combs. She broke down on the stand when she was reading these. And then Jane admitted that she stayed despite the alleged abuse due to emotional dependency and financial support. I mean, I feel like that is a constant theme, is that he was very powerful, he's very rich, and that is sometimes alluring and can cloud your judgment. Then she talked a little bit about their freak-offs. She described a culture of hotel nights or freak-offs, and she said she would be coerced into sex with escorts and porn performers while Combs and others watched. One lawsuit report noted that 90% of their relationship was consisted of these parties. And that she also testified that a 2023 trip to Las Vegas, where an unnamed high-profile rapper asked her to arrange a male escort for them, and additional sexual activity took place that evening. So it's been wild. It's been interesting, but it seems like the judge may have hinted that prosecution aims to rest by mid-June. So that's looking like next week, June 18th, or maybe no later than June 19th, they may be done and wrapping this whole thing up, which could be really interesting. And if you remember, as a little refresher, he's facing charges of racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution. So if he's convicted, he could face at least 15 years up to life in prison. So that is your Diddy update. That is what I've got for you this week. Let's move on to the number one story. Number one story, no one's going to be surprised here. It is Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively. We mentioned it this week on the Wednesday episode that his lawsuit was dismissed against her for the $400 million and against her and Ryan and her publicist. And she claimed victory over it. We talked about it a little bit, and a lot of people wrote in and they were like, no, this is not a victory for her. And we did talk about it, that the judge dismissed this without prejudice, which means they can now refile. And the way that I understand it, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, feel free to yell at me, is that now Baldoni's team can now refile this, but be a little more strategic. They can refile this lawsuit in a more precise manner, because now they also know all the hands that she's going to play. She's released certain information and she has said certain things. And so if they now go in, use that information basically against her, refile, so that everything she said will work against her. That's at least how I understand it, that in no means is this a big loss for him, and a big win for her. This is more of strategy when it comes to legal filings on his part. And even though momentarily it's going to look like a win for her, they are making it very clear that this is not a win, that this is going to be a part of their plan. So yeah, that's the big one, and people are still freaking out over these two. So anyway, those are the top 10 stories of the week. that is your Raw rundown. A little quicker than normal. I don't have Adam here to help me banter a little bit, so I apologize if it was just straight to the point. But talking to myself kind of gets boring sometimes. So anyway, that is the Raw rundown. Make sure you guys like, subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you follow us on all of our social platforms. We are on Instagram, LinkedIn. No, we're not on LinkedIn. Facebook. We're on TikTok. We're wherever. And if you need to find our links, go to HollywoodRaw.com. We got all the links there. We've got the link to, obviously, our private Facebook group called Off the Record. Sometimes it's a little hard to find when you just go to search it because it is private. And you can follow me at Dax Holt. You can follow Adam at Adam Glen. And we will see you guys next week. Later!
Guys, hope you liked that video. We got a lot more where that came from.
Hit that bell, like, subscribe, share with a friend. The best thing you do to support us is really doing that. And we really need the money because we need hair gel.